So it's just past 4 AM and we are on our way. So we've got about a 6-hour drive to Dover, and then we're on the ferry from Dover to Calais, and then we're driving to Belgium, where we're spending 4 days visiting battlefields. We're going to be visiting cemeteries, all used throughout World War I. So let's get on with our journey, shall we? Me and Harry are at the back. We've ended up at the back of the bus, but we're going to have a good journey. Even though it's just past 4, the sun is starting to come out. Lovely summer weather. So we have arrived at Cobham Services. We're going to go and get a Mackey's, probably a Mackey's, maybe something else, breakfast. It's only 7, almost 7 AM. And yeah, let's go get some food. All right then, Harry, what have we got?
Whatever this is.
Oh, a bacon roll with ketchup and a strawberry frappe. I've gone for a caramel iced frappe, Mighty McMuffin, and hash brown.
I've gone from a bacon and egg McMuffin, but I've gone for a bit of diversity and put a hash brown in there.
We've made our way into Dover. It's going through security now. We checked out, Harry?
Oh, yeah, we are.
And we're going onto the ferry now. So we've made it onto the ferry, haven't we, Harry? And we're just watching the white cliffs of Dover. They have got some shops and some restaurants and stuff on here. We might have a look. We've got about an hour and a half. Well, the ferry started at 10. We get there at 12:30, but it's an hour and a half because French time. We'll be on French time when we get there. So yeah, we just got about an hour and a half to kill. Like a mini cruise.
So guys, I got a bacon roll from the cafe.
How much did it cost?
£3 something.
Oh.
Hefty. Let's give it a go. Very fatty. It's decent.
We are into Calais. We've made it into France. Our first stop is Vimy Ridge. So we've made it to our first stop, which is Vimy Ridge. Yeah, so as you can see, we have got some mounds where trenches used to be, but there are some existing trenches and tunnels that we are going to visit on our little stop today. So here at Vimy Ridge, the tour guides are Canadian volunteers, most of whom are history students that are studying in Canada and have an interest for the First World War. That's because this area was gifted to Canada after the war, thanking them for their efforts. I was given the opportunity to open the door as we came down into the trenches. These trenches would have been used to allow for sneak attacks of the Allied forces on the Germans. It does look nice and well lit and really nice and stable. This wouldn't have been the case during the war. That would have been very dimly lit, as lights were few and far between and would have not been at all as bright. And the concrete beams that you see above our heads with the hazard tape on would not have been like that. They in fact would have been wooden, and the likelihood of collapse would have been very high. There were 3 methods for shoveling out the chalk. The first method would have been to take them out in bags and put them behind their own lines. The second would be to put the chalk at the bottom of their own trenches to soak up some of the water. And the third was quite intuitive actually, where soldiers would take a bag of this chalk and put it with the sandbags of German trenches. This would then allow them to shoot at these sandbags, and German soldiers would have become covered in this white chalk, and when running out into no man's land would have been much easier to see. As we came up from the trenches, we were very out of breath. This was because the lack of oxygen down in the trenches, as they are about 8 meters under the ground. These trenches would have been used on the attack on the 9th of April, where thousands of Canadian troops spilled out of the tunnels into these trenches and onto German front lines. As you can imagine, the trenches would have been much higher than they are now, and instead of being made of this rock that looks like sandbags, they would have been made of real sandbags. The stones on the floor would of course not have been there, and instead would have been mud, and the duck board here that you can see being portrayed as concrete would have been wood as well. So the next stop, not far down the road at all, is the Vimy Ridge Memorial, which commemorates the 11,285 Canadians whose final resting places are unknown. You won't be able to see from this video, but the stone is blinding as it's bright white. It reflects into your face. This obviously represents the victorious nature of this statue and the gratitude they have for the soldiers that fought. The two main pillars at the top represent France and Canada and their alliance during the war. As you can see, there are many little statues on there. The one on the right represents weeping families, and then in the middle here you have Mother Canada weeping over the lost soldiers. This represents a verse from the Bible, which is the breaking of the sword. And here is the view from Vimy Ridge. This is what they would have wanted to capture during the attack, as you obviously got a lot of high ground. So after stopping at the memorials, we are now making our way back to the hotel, where we're going to get checked in, where we've got about 10 minutes to change, and then we're going out to a restaurant. So we've made it to our hotel. There's a bathroom here. Oh, a toilet separate to the bathroom. It's a bit odd. You've got a bunk up here, bunk down here, another one up here, and four more in the corner over here. This is where I will be sleeping with Harry's feet by my face. This is going to be a brilliant time. We've only got a couple of minutes to quickly unpack, and then we're off to the restaurant. Apparently we're having chicken and chips. So this is the downstairs. We're coming through this door. We've got a seating area over here. I'm assuming that's where breakfast will be served. We're the only school in this, so we've got the whole hotel basically. Then you've got another seating over here. We've got more over here. It's like a maze. Oh, got like a games room. Chess, pool, table tennis. I'm all changed into my shirt. Most people aren't changing. Harry has gone for the polo. Good old polo. I like that. We're off to go to get chicken and chips apparently. Okay.
Rally cars. This is phenomenal. Look at what.
So we've arrived fashionably late. We've got this Straz? Oh, it's fizzing. Let's give that a taste. It's basically tango, but it's quench the thirst. Okay, so we're a bit surprised. That's what we've got. It's a bit of chicken with a bit of gravy and some peas, a bowl of chips in the middle. Pretty good actually. We'll take it. So the service in here is absolutely incredible. We had a whole bowl of chips for the table, and then we finished them, and they brought us another bowl of chips. So it's really good in here. So the chicken was lovely. It came with some peas and gravy. Chips are absolutely delicious, and they're topping it up. So this is a really lovely restaurant actually. And we've got a lovely little ice cream for dessert. After dinner, we quickly stopped off at the Menin Gate, which we come back to on Sunday. We're back from our meal. Now we've just got some free time down in the area downstairs to play pool. There's table tennis and just have a chat really, and then we're off to bed. So we've got actually all right nights of sleep there. So we've now got breakfast. I'm not sure what to expect really. They said it's a bit like continental breakfast, but you've also got ham and cheese. So we'll take you down to breakfast and see what's going on. Interesting selection for breakfast. We always got a bit of cheese and ham. Who can see cheese and ham without having it? 3 slices of toast, which took about an hour in the hotel toaster. Nutella, spreadable cheese and jam, 1 for each. A pan of chocolate and whatever this is, some kind of cake. Looks nice. So today's visit is to the Somme. First stop is Newfoundland Park, which, like the visit yesterday, is run by Canadian volunteers. So we're going to be shown round that first, and then there's a few more stops in the Somme. So we've got about an hour and a half journey, and then we're at the first stop. So as I just mentioned, this is run by Canadian volunteers as well. That's because the land was also given to Canada. However, Newfoundland was a separate island to Canada during the time of the war and only had a population of 240,000. Despite this, 12,000 soldiers enlisted in the war from Newfoundland, and the regiment served as part of the 29th Division. The large bronze monument, which is a carabao, is at the centre of Vimy Memorial and is designed by a sculptor, Captain Basil Gotto, and pays tribute to the Newfoundland Regiment Carabao emblem. There are 821 names inscribed at the bottom of the monument, as these are the members that died. Once again, many trenches are preserved here, just like at Vimy Ridge. And this is what's called the danger tree. On the 1st of July, the Newfoundland soldiers started their attack on the German lines, and 752 soldiers went over the top, but only 84 survived. What's left of this tree is where they met afterwards to do a roll call, and where it was found out that no progress was made and no land was gained by the Allied forces. We come now to what is known as a Commonwealth grave. These are soldiers of the Allied forces, and we see many of these during our time looking into the battlefields, and they all look very similar. Here is the 51st Division monument, and we also have German trenches. As you can see, they are so much deeper than British trenches, as they knew that they were going to be staying a lot longer. And here we come to Hunter's Cemetery. This is in the shape of a circle because this was originally a crater caused by a mine, and they wanted to commemorate this by making a cemetery in the shape of it.
We just travelled just down the road to Vimy Memorial and Museum. We're having the lunches that we packed for ourselves earlier, so some baguettes and peach, and we've got Twix in there as well. And then we're going to be looking around the memorial.
So this is the Vimy Memorial. It is 141 feet high and is made up of 16 piers. On the piers there are 73,000 names of British, South African, French and Commonwealth names, of which the bodies of the soldiers have no known grave, and who were killed between July 1915 and March 1918 in the Battle of the Somme. Behind the memorial is a small Anglo-French cemetery with the graves of 300 soldiers from each nation, and most of these are non-identifiable. There are flags on top of the French and British, and they're in the directions of which they would have been fighting.
So our last stop for today is Laboiselle Crater. So we're having a walk around this, and then we're going to go on a sort of longer walk, same way that soldiers would have.
Half a mile south of the village of Laboiselle, at 7:28 a.m, the largest of the mines laid along the Somme front exploded. It was known as Lochnager. It contained 66,000 pounds of ammonal in 2 charges 55 feet below the surface. The work was done by tunnelling companies and the Royal Engineers, which often recruited men who in civilian life had been miners or involved in constructing sewers. The mine created a crater 90 yards across and 70 feet deep with a lip 15 feet high. Debris from the explosion rose some 4,000 feet into the air. The 34th Division lost 6,380 officers and men on the day and was the hardest hit British division. So this was the walk we took that took us through many fields and past a lot of shrapnel, as obviously it would have been the direction that many of the soldiers would have taken, and we were encouraged to look for pieces of shrapnel, maybe a bit of barbed wire. I wasn't able to find anything, but I know of a few people that were. This walk was based on a soldier called Archie Paxton, and this walk replicates his actions leading up to the 1st of July. At the end it brings us to a German cemetery, which does very much contrast with the cemeteries we've been looking at in the previous days. Obviously the Commonwealth cemeteries, these are black crosses rather than the white gravestones that we've seen before, and there are 4 names to each of these crosses, so it does show you the difference. On our way back we did stop off at someone on the coach's family's grave, and our amazing driver managed to get us down some very tight roads on the way there.
I wasn't able to vlog back at the hotel. We only had about 5 minutes to get changed, but we're in a shirt again. We're going to another local restaurant where we're going to have spaghetti bolognese, so interesting. We're going the same way as the other restaurant, so might be quite near. Let's go have a look.
So here's our spread to start with. We've been left with some bottles of Coke. We're really thirsty, so these are very helpful. Here's our spaghetti bolognese. We've got some cheese to sprinkle on top. Looks quite nice. A vanilla cornetto for dessert. Lovely.
So we're back from our spaghetti bolognese and our cornettos. What do you all think? What do you think of cornettos? And the spaghetti bolognese? It was actually really nice. We've got a quiz now, I think. Is it a quiz? Hopefully not. Some kind of evening entertainment. We'll see what they've come up with. We're ready to be surprised.
First round of the quiz is guess the song. We've got absolutely no clue. Absolutely no clue. History round, we are pretty confident with most of these answers. Yeah, bring on a win. I think we've absolutely boshed the food round. We have to guess where they're from. My knowledge of food is coming in handy here.
When will the day be that someone finally wants to eat me. I'm just compacted of who knows what, squeezed together.
So we finished our little quiz. That was probably one of the weirdest quizzes you'll ever encounter. They were right. But we're off to bed. We've just got a quick game of cards before bed, and then we're off to see yet again more battlefields tomorrow.
Well, a very good morning, and it's day 3 of our battlefields trip tour, whatever you want to call it, and I've got about 10 minutes, and we're down for breakfast. Yeah, 7 minutes. We'll be down for breakfast. Just got changed, and we'll be downstairs. I think it's the same thing for breakfast today, and then we're off to, I believe, some sites that relate to the Battle of Passchendaele, which will be quite interesting. They have trenches there which resemble how they did during the war, so very muddy. So we'll see what it's like. It should be really interesting.
So we've got another lovely spread for breakfast. I've tried some cereal as well, orange juice, some cakes and croissants and all that, and obviously a bit of ham and cheese, because if it's there, you've got to have it.
So our first stop for today is only a short walk from our hotel. It's a little museum here in Ypres, and we've got a couple of hours here before we go on to see some more battlefields.
So this is the In Flanders Fields Museum, and it's inside the Ypres Cloth House, which was completely destroyed during World War I and used reparations money to restore it. We were given these cool bracelets, which gave everyone a different person, one old and one young, and they told you information about them as you went around. My first person was Camille Delaire, who became the vicar of Ypres St. Peter's Parish during the first months of the war, and became a member of the committee that governed the town. With his friend's ambulance unit and a few helpers, he tried to relieve the greatest need, extinguishing houses, caring for the wounded and the sick, and evacuating them. Camille left Ypres with the last group remaining on the 9th of May 1915. His assistant priest Reen Lees had already been killed in the bombardment. From Poperinghe, Camille travelled as much as possible to Ypres to save works of art until he settled in Wisquier, where he opened an orphanage in March 1915. On the 12th of February 1919, Camille became canon deacon of Ypres. He devoted himself to the reconstruction. He himself was head of the barracks quarter at the Poperinghe with schools and a hospital. In 1928, the reconstruction was already well advanced, and he went in retirement. He still cared for an orphanage who were housed in St. Andreas. In 1974 and 1977, the war diaries of Camille Delaire were published in book form. The second person I found out about was Sylvain Frimaut, who was a 6-year-old from Zilbec and was the star of a military hospital in Abbeville. On the flight from Meris, near Biellel, in the direction of Normandy, he was crashed under the front wheel of a cart and was badly injured in the forehead, leg and right hand. A British Army doctor managed to save Sylvain's crushed hand. The little boy soon became the darling of the nursing staff and was much loved by the British soldiers. He was given a military uniform, followed the doctor on his rounds, and sat at the table with the officers. After 4 months, he spoke better English than Flemish. Sylvain came from Soirteline in Zilbec. He had an older brother, Henry, and a younger sister, Yolande. Their father, Henry, was a baker, and his mother, Barbara, helped him. At the beginning of the war, they fled to Meris, where Henry replaced a mobilised French baker. After Sylvain's rehabilitation in 1918, the family lived in Maisons-Lifitière near Paris. Later, Sylvain still remembered the Easterners who came to pave the way and salvage the corpse of 3 persons who truncated the heads of an obus on the playground of his school. So our next stop for the day isn't very far at all. This is called Sanctuary Wood. It is 2.5 miles east of Ypres, and the area of wood itself first saw fierce fighting in 1914 as the German army tried to push through to Ypres. I'll tell you more about the fighting later on. The land here was bought by a Belgian family soon after the war. Their original home had been destroyed. The present owner is a relative of the family who set up the museum, cafe and house here. The land is left as a memorial to the scars of war and attracts many visitors. During the Second World War, the family hid the museum exhibits that had been collected in a cellar and covered the entrance in concrete. Many German soldiers are said to have visited the site. After the war, the museum was built up again. What's quite special about Sanctuary Wood is it has reconstruction. Well, some of them are real, but they've been made to replicates the trenches even more with being really muddy. They've added trench walls, and we were given some time to go around them. And I'll just let you listen. You can't see in the tunnels very well. It's not lit up, of course. But I'll let you listen to what goes on.
Move it!
Hurry up!
We're trying, but can't get anywhere.
I'm checking, I can't.
Oh, I can't see.
He's slick. Oh, there's a step.
Where's the step? Then I'm holding your bag for it.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay.
I'm holding your bag for it. There's a step here. There's a step here.
There's a step in the dark.
Why is there a step?
Whoa.
Guys, there's a step! Where's the step? I can't find it! Oh, it's here!
Oh, now it's gone to concrete, and I can't bash in my head.
The ground's lumpy! Ow!
Oh, that was mud. Oh, we've made it.
We made it, guys! Yeah, we can only go that way a long way.
Now we're going further.
They're saying there's a rat and they're refusing to.
Just go.
Keep it going. I'm not scared of no rats. We're soldiers, we can do it.
I went to war when I was 15. Yeah, we've made it.
We've won the First World War.
Big duck now.
I've recorded the whole of that. I didn't realise I had.
Oh, look at the damage. Look at the damage that's been done.
So as you can see there, we had a great time in the mud, in the tunnels, and we come out into some even more. So let me tell you a bit more about Sanctuary Wood. By the 19th of November 1914, the British held the territory to the west of Sanctuary Wood, and Ypres was saved. The wood was given the famous name as it was known as the safe area where those cut off from the regiments could gather. In May 1915, however, it lost its use when the Germans took the east of the wood, and it became part of the British front line. A main second line trench, part of the communication trench, and a communication tunnel all still remain. That's what we've just been through. During the war, these were part of Lovers Walk, Artillery Place, and Warrington Avenue sector. Major RT called Lovers Walk a filthy little ditch in 1915. Not much has changed. In June 1916, Sanctuary Wood was subjected to a 4-day attack by the Germans, but held, and eventually the Germans were driven back to Hill 62 by the Canadians. This achievement was commemorated by a memorial to the Canadians at the top of the road. Finally, during the Battle of Passchendaele, in October to November 1917, Sanctuary Wood was used as a base for the attack upon German positions in Gleescourse Wood to the east. We then come into the museum next to Sanctuary Wood, which is even weirder, I'd say. There was a lot of mannequins, real bones, catapults. It just looks like someone's converted their house and they're having a great time with it. There is so much to see. This has got to be one of my favourite museums that we go to on this trip. There is so much variety and it's just really, really cool.
Real bones. Oh, there's more. It carries on. Oh my god. It just doesn't stop. After a lovely stop, we've got our lunch that we made again this morning. We've got our baguette, a waffle, our apple, some water. Not gonna lie, first time having a Belgian waffle. Absolutely delicious, aren't they, Ben? Absolutely delicious.
So we now come to our last museum of the trip. This is the Passchendaele Memorial Museum. And just like the last one, there are a lot of mannequins and a lot of interactive bits.
That one's nice. Yeah, that's nice as well. That smells like a mint.
Smells terrible.
This one smells like a scented can. Come on, man. Wouldn't mind getting it. That smells like a scented can.
That sounds not terrible, is it?
That's alright.
There is a lot of information about the uniform worn, and there are also things to try on. So I thought, why not try on a helmet? There's more mannequins. They also have their own dugouts. These obviously aren't real, but they do a good job at it.
Oh, don't hit your head. I don't think it would have fire escapes on it. Maze. Communication room. Oh. This is the bunks. More bunks. Dining area. Oh. Bedrooms. Do you want to get in, Harry? Lovely and comfy.
Workshop.
Ah. Medical.
Don't give me much hope there. That looks like a pretty bad head wound.
A pump closet. And out we go. Hello, this is the kitchen. Looks like they're enjoying something very tasty. Officer's mess.
As we come down from the dugouts, we come through to even more parts of the museum. Something I found out was quite interesting here is the different types of the shells. They come in lots of different colours. And I hadn't thought about this before, but they obviously in those times wouldn't have had as adequate education. So they're coloured to show what they are.
How heavy is it?
It would be uncomfortable to carry all day.
I do get that. The weight's quite low. It's not that bad. I thought it was very heavy. That's fine.
It's not light, but it's alright.
Say something.
Ben, come on. This is the outfit.
Pretty heavy actually. These look better than the trenches we were in earlier, don't they?
The last part of this museum that we come to is the trenches. Once again, these are replicas, but they do a really, really good job at showing the difference between German and English trenches. So first we come into German trenches. They're much more built up. They have wood on all sides, wood on the floor, and they are generally much nicer.
Sniping post. This has got to be the best day so far. Passchendaele. Love Passchendaele.
And we've got the ceremony tonight.
Ceremony?
The last post.
Oh, yes.
Yesterday was the best day.
Huh?
Yesterday was the best day.
You think?
There's massive monuments and stuff. Let's go straight.
Oh, this one's another little dugout. What's in here?
I'm showing him what he's going to see.
What's this?
And now we come through to the British trenches. As you can
it's
see,
not as good.
it's duckboard on the floor, and
We've still won
there's
the
a big
war, though.
gap if you fall off. And the walls aren't made up of solid wood.
Scary, actually.
There's metal in there. There's sandbags, and it
Yeah,
seems
so as it
a
changes to
lot
this kind of wood,
less built up,
came into an English
if that
trench.
makes sense.
After seeing the German trench yesterday, it just looks like a mine crater.
Yeah, but they would have been real. Imagine how this trip would have gone if we lost the war. Oh, another little bunker.
The next place that we come to is what's known as Tinecart Commonwealth Cemetery. This is where many of the soldiers would have been buried that fell in the Battle of Passchendaele. Tinecart was a name given to the farm that some soldiers sheltered in during the battle. The name was chosen by soldiers of a Newcastle regiment as it reminded them of cottages in their home area. During the battle, the area in and around the cemetery was part of German defences holding the whole Passchendaele Ridge against the Allied attacks. That's why in some places that you can find German graves in this cemetery. At Tinecart there are 11,908 graves and 34,888 names on the memorials. And these people were killed between April 1917 and November 1918. There are 6 Victoria Cross Awards soldiers killed here. Very soon after we went to the German grave. Now you can see a very stark difference with this. Once again, you have many names to each plaque, up to 20 in some places. Once again, they're not as glamorous. Despite its smaller size, the total number of soldiers buried here at Landmark German Cemetery is 44,292. But there are much less graves because there are up to 20 to each. There's also a mass grave in the centre where over 25,000 are buried with all their names on these plaques around the outside, as you can see.
So we've got back to the hotel. We've actually got 20 minutes to get changed today, which is a lot better than the other few days. And we're going out for, what is it tonight, guys?
Meatballs.
Chips and meatballs, which apparently is a Belgian delicacy. So we'll see.
Cheeky plastic cup of lemonade to start. Really nice, actually. Here are meatballs and tomato sauce and chips.
So we just finished our little meal, meatballs, chips and ice cream. Harry, what did you think? Yeah, it was just alright, wasn't it? Ben?
Oh, it was alright.
Yeah. We're now sat on the floor, on the pavement, waiting for the last post, which starts in 45 minutes. So the last post actually plays here at 8 PM every day. We've got about 45 minutes to wait for it. Hopefully it's worth waiting.
This place here, under all of the scaffolding, is the Menning Gate. And at 8 PM every day, they played the last post. This has been happening ever since the end of World War I. And on every Sunday, they do a special celebration, including schools.
So that is the last post over. Now we have about an hour and a half here at the hotel, in the games room, wherever really, to just chill, and then we're off to bed, and tomorrow we're leaving. It's gone by so fast, but it has been a great time.
So we're just going down for breakfast now. It is the 4th day of our Vimy Ridge trip. We actually go home today. Can you believe it, guys? It's gone by so quickly. But yeah, we've got one more day to have lots of fun. First, I've gone for some Cocoa Pops. But instead of milk, I've gone with the chocolate milk. I want to see how this tastes.
Come on then, Ben, I want a 5-star review.
That's actually really good. I'll have that again. It wouldn't be a hotel breakfast without a few more pastries as well.
And look at that, we are all packed up, everything is out, and we are heading back to the coach now.
So we have just checked out of the hotel. We're now going to a Belgium chocolate shop where there's going to give us a little sales pitch, and then we might be able to buy some chocolate. Then we've got some free time around town to go shopping, get some souvenirs and all those kind of bits.
May I suggest that you take a free sample on your way in, and you can walk straight to the back. There is enough space for all of you, but I need you to squeeze in just a little bit, okay? Thank you.
Very good. Come to me, yeah? It's chocolate time, eh?
Yeah, chocolate.
A few steps closer. Very good. Come to me, yeah? You go home today. Best moment to buy Belgium chocolates. Your last day. And we do something special, boys and girls. For students like you, we have a student package, boys and girls. This one, that's the same that we give you a sample when you enter the shop, boys and girls. This one is the one that you taste now. Gold box included, boys and girls. What is in this gold box? 10 different Belgium filling chocolates. When you take the deal, the block and the box, you got an extra item. An extra item on this wall. Sauces, macaroons, popcorn, stroopwafel, Belgian waffle, lollipop, candy floss, chocolates. It's anything on the wall, boys and girls, except one item. The beer on the corner, boys and girls. Too young for the beer. What is the price? €12.50. A bar, a box, and something on the wall.
So we have got a few purchases already. So I'm in the Belgian chocolate shop. I was very enthusiastic. So we went for the two bar deal. So we've got 2 bars of milk chocolate. We get 2 of these assorted boxes, and then we've gone for, we get the 3 off the shelf, which was, have a look, we've got 1 bag of shells, the shell chocolates, 1 bag of truffles, and 1 bag of these coin looking things. That was €25, so not cheap, but you know, when you're on holiday, hey, might as well. So I've now just gone into a souvenir shop and got a couple of fridge magnets. I'm always in for a fridge magnet wherever I go. If you see the channel, I'm always getting fridge magnets everywhere. So here's the first one. It's all of these sort of historical attractions, and then you've got them paying the last post just down there. And then just a simple one that's just the Belgium country and the flag. You know, just because we've been here, you know. So we found a shop that sold all sorts of things, really, but we found a Fanta. Now, I honestly can't read this. I don't even think it's in Belgium. It says Chocolate Mene Cucru. So I don't have a clue what flavour this is. So I hope it's not something disgusting. Let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. Is it like raspberry or something? That's what it's sort of tasting like, raspberry-ish. So we found a pretty normal supermarket, and we got some little snacks. Harry's got some Dorito bits. Never had those in the UK. No. And some Pepsi Max, where you can find literally everywhere. We've got a nice long coach journey home, so it's good to have some snacks and drinks for the journey. So for our last stop on our Battlefields journey is Essex Farm dressing station, and then we're back on the coach, and then it's the journey home. So last stop here.
The front lines between here and Ypres ran roughly parallel to the canal just behind the cemetery. British soldiers from the Essex Regiment called this Essex Farm after a small cottage that stood beside the road at the entrance of the canal access track. Along the canal bank lived and worked a unique community of men whose purpose was to support those fighting in the front lines. Concrete dugouts, as you can see here, were used between 1915 and 1917 as a dressing station for the wounded. Conditions would have been extremely primitive, and those wounded and dying soldiers would have laid out on stretchers outside and would have been marked with symbols or letters to show if they had any hope of being saved or not. Canadian doctor John McCrae wrote the poem In Flanders Fields, inspired by many of the soldiers that came to this dressing station. I'll read it to you now. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw, the torch be yours to hold it tight, if ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep through poppies grow in Flanders fields. This we read out while we visited, and then we had a look around at some of the graves. There's some interesting things in this graveyard. There are a couple of Victoria Cross winners, as well as some graves have pebbles on the top to represent those of the Jewish faith. Also in this cemetery is 15-year-old Valentine, one of the youngest soldiers in the war.
Well, I would have had that. I'm such a gentleman. Well, yeah, but you put it over the badge.
I only found a Jewish grave.
Not seen a Jew yet.
So that was it. That was our last stop on our tour. Now we've got our long journey back through the ferries. But let's get what other people think about our trip. So what was everyone's favourite part?
My favourite part of this holiday has probably been yesterday when we went into the trenches and in the tunnel and we did a bit of exploring, and I thought that was probably my favourite part. I really loved it.
Favourite has to be the spaghetti bolognese on a Saturday night.
That hit, that was good.
My favourite moment was the Passchendaele Memorial Museum that we went to yesterday. And I think the dinners that we've had the past 2 nights especially were great fun.
My favourite place was going through the tunnels at the Passchendaele Memorial Museum.
My favourite moment of this trip was placing the wreath at the Menin Gate, dressed in my full school uniform, and it was really cold.
My favourite moment was when Luke became my coach driver at Warwick Services.
My favourite moment was paying respect to Ewan's dead great-granddad.
I would have to say yesterday when we went in the trenches.
Yeah, facts. Seeing the 15-year-old's grave.
My favourite part was going to see all the memorials. It was very sad to see a 15-year-old boy, Valentine, dead. It's very sad.
My favourite part was when we ran around in the very muddy and wet tunnels below the trenches. That was insane.
I want to say a massive thank you to all of you. You've all been great. Thank you for the